Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you called I Am Not Spock and How I Learned to Lie. This is a video about me, myself, the person, and some things about my past and childhood that you might find interesting or useful. The gameplay that you're going to get to see is probably like my second or third game back on Black Ops 2. I get shut down kind of hard in the beginning by quickscopers. My team isn't overly useful. However, I play a really safe, smart, conservative Spock-like gameplay until I'm able to make a comeback, get a swarm, and smash the enemy team. It's actually going to look like I'm playing awful and losing this game, but I'm playing it my way, kind of like Spock would, kind of like completely under control until the last minute when I turn things around. However, the reality is that I'm not Spock. The perception that many people have of me on this channel, and one that I've helped create for reasons that we'll explain later, is that of a cool, calm, intellectual, sometimes unemotional and robotic fellow. I've seen some things like when I do my live stream, people are really surprised that in my live stream I'm laughing, I'm joking, I'll do stuff like curse. Like I think it was the other night my mom called, and as soon as the phone rang I immediately started cursing. Or when I lose, I sometimes call people dirty names or flirt with my wife, and they're like, who is this guy on the stream? Where is the Drifter that we all know and love that's going to talk about math for 15 hours a day? That's not the reality of who I am. And I kind of got this idea because I was reading about Leonard Nimoy, who plays Spock on Star Trek. Most of you are familiar with him, and his autobiography is called I Am Not Spock. He is an actor that plays Spock. However, he played the character so well, he became known as being that character, to the point where people would introduce him like, oh yeah, this is my friend Spock, I think you would like to meet Spock. And he's like, no, my name is Leonard, it's not Spock. Or when he would meet people and he would do something that would be, say, out of his character, the character of Spock, they would be kind of surprised, like, I never thought you would act that way. And the guy's like, what, you never thought me, a person, would have these emotions or feelings? It's like, I'm not the alien I play on TV, you know. So he made his autobiography, I'm Not Spock, and explained the differences between himself, the actor, and himself, the character. That's kind of some of the things that I'd like to talk about here today, because a lot of what I do on the channel is educational, inspirational, philosophical, mathematical, something like that. And what you get, assuming that me as a person is more of a flawless, pseudo-intellectual wizardry, you know, that sort of stuff. And that's not really true. Just like anybody else, I burp, fart, make mistakes, curse, and am lewd. One of my favorite things, actually, is trashy movies. I don't know why. I just happen to like them. I find them entertaining, especially trashy movies from the 80s for some reason. It's just a very special kind of trash that's hard to recreate. Crazy puppets, aliens, that sort of stuff. Very fun. But what's probably more interesting is to talk about the character you play ends up becoming who you are. If you pretend to be something for so long, you will eventually be that thing. If you wear the mask for so long, your face is eventually going to mold to fit the mask, or you're going to change your behavior to match what's going on. There's a lot of different, you know, metaphors we could use here. But now we're going to talk about my past, my childhood, how I learned to lie, and that's going to tie into why I speak the way that I do. So a lot of people have described the way that I speak as flat, as monotone, unemotional, that sort of thing. And as hard as I try to put emphasis on my voice, as hard as I do try to sound emotional or distraught or important, those sort of things, it just doesn't happen very much because it ties into how I learned to lie. For those of you that don't know, I've probably talked about it a little bit here on the channel before. I grew up in a kind of dysfunctional family. Well, yeah, it was a very dysfunctional family. Mom and Dad were split. Mom, unfortunately, had really bad alcohol and drug problems. A little bit crazy, well-meaning most of the time, but, you know, a little bit crazy, a little bit rough around the edges, and she had some sort of quirks and behaviors that I was not allowed to have or express, and just really kind of weird stuff. My father was, his parents were not really kind to him. So while he tried to be the best father he could, and most of the times he was, he had a few rough edges, a few little quirks that could set him off really easy, so I needed to be a little bit careful there. It's like 90% of the time is great, 10% of the time temperamental. But I was also, to an extent, raised by my grandparents. My grandfather was completely, we'll say, aggressive, and they were all different. All these people had different quirks. They all had this strange idea that a family has to stay together. They have to have family holidays together. We have to go to church together sometimes, that you need to talk to people and all this. Like, they couldn't stand each other. Not one person in that group liked the other people at all. Yet they all stuck together as a family, and me being in the middle, I was the one person that everybody liked and the one person that everybody would use to communicate through. So you've probably heard about this in like divorce proceedings or from other children. Like, I was the kid playing password. Somebody would tell me something, and then I would have to relay it to the rest of the family, sometimes everybody, and I would have to play this game, you know, for all 4, 5, 6 members, whatever. It didn't really matter, and I would also have to keep secrets from everybody. If one member of the family was doing something that the other members of the family didn't like, or it would cause problems, or they would bitch about, or just something that would make my life uncomfortable, it was a secret that I needed to keep. And sometimes, but they're all curious, this is a little stupid southern kind of stuff. And what would happen is they would ask me, hey, is your dad dating a new girl? Or my mom would ask me, hey, does your dad take too many painkillers? Hey, did so-and-so touch you? Hey, did so-and-so do this? So even as a little kid, what I had to learn how to do really fast was to lie. And I had to learn this just to make my life easier, because if I run one person out, I get in trouble, either punished normally or spanked. You probably wouldn't get beaten too much, just a little bit of that. They weren't too big on the physical stuff. But the reality was there that it could be there. Like, I could be going to beating town if I wasn't careful. So I learned to lie, and I got really, really good at lying as a little kid, and emotional manipulation, that sort of stuff. Learned from the best, mind you. Even to this day, I can cry on command if I need to. But the best way to lie, I found, was to pretend to be completely unemotional. If I speak with a really flat voice, just to not really accentuate my words, just to be kind of flat, like everything is boring, like everything is dull constantly, that it would make my job easier, because usually if you have a normal voice, you accentuate, you lie. When you're put under pressure, you'll crack, you'll talk a little bit differently. But if it's just always flat, always, then it's kind of harder to tell. And on top of that, I also made it a point to tell the truth, always. Even in times that were embarrassing, that would get me in trouble, where it wouldn't really, or it may be a little bad, but not like too bad, I would go ahead and tell the truth in the same flat, unemotional voice that I would lie in, and I would take my punishment or whatever. It didn't really matter. Because then later on, when somebody would ask me something that I absolutely had to lie about, which is another good, if you really want to lie, just make sure that your lies are important. Don't waste your lies on petty things. Make sure it's like really, really important. That what I could do is answer in the same flat, unemotional, boring voice, the same one that I answer hard truths about like it's nothing, and just lie. And in doing it, that was very, very successful. It allowed me to lie, to misdirect, to kind of do the things that I needed to do to keep my life simple and under control. Not that I really wanted that. In retrospect, it was a terrible way to perceive the world as a small kid, but that's what I did, and I did it for a really, really, really long period of time. I didn't even stop trying to do that until my later teenage years. Probably about the time I started going to college is probably about the time I started to try to stop doing that. But the side effect was that I played a character for so long. I played a character that didn't accentuate words, that was always flat, that was always unemotional, logical, that sort of thing, that it stuck, and it stuck really hard. So now even when I do a commentary like this, it's going to sound flatter than what some people would do, but I'm trying really, really hard to accentuate my words, because my natural method of speaking that I did for years and years and years and years, and that I still use, is this same boring, flat voice that allows me to manipulate. Even though that's not something I need to do any longer, unfortunately it became a part of who I am, and it's a side effect of that. I'm practicing trying to get out of it. So, but that goes back to the perception. It's funny because a lot of the people that watch this channel perceive me to be as a very calm, let's say, sort of robotic, boring sort of person, but the reality is that's something that I created a long time ago for a completely different purpose that stuck with me, that I unfortunately became, though not without merits, because I grew up amongst crazy people. So what do I value? Logic, of course. Here comes the swarm, and some things like that. But that's where I'm at right now with this whole sort of thing, and I thought that it might do some of you some good to get some explanation, to kind of understand exactly what's going on or where I came from. And it is kind of an interesting topic. And by the way, if you're a kid and you're in a position like that, that's just, I just don't do what I do. It's really bad for you, and it's really bad for you in the long run. Convenient now, definitely bad for you in the long run. And if you're a parent and you're putting your child in a position like that, you really need to reevaluate what you're doing as a parent, because there's much more to raising kids than the roof over their head and the food and that sort of stuff. Albeit the food and the roof are good, there are more things that you need to be doing. So that is why people assume that my head is always calm and logical, but that's not really true. Even as a kid, when I was doing those things, when I was calm, when I would just get punched and I would just take it like a man and act like it didn't count, the head was always very angry. Believe it or not, I'm actually a very temperamental person, very, very, very easy to make angry, very easy to break things, to punch, to scream. However, I learned at a young age that I absolutely had to have control over those sort of things. So situations that would normally make people mad, like when I came back from, I think it was E3, or it was like a ghost event, some gay dude groped me up in the bathroom. It was a situation that I would normally... I wanted to hook eyeballs, was my first idea, to just poke the eyes. But because I'm used to doing this for so long, I was able to just kind of brush it off and pretend like it wasn't a big deal, when in reality my head was going full-on crazy kill mode. So do keep in mind there's a difference between the people that you... This is especially true of introverted people. There's a big difference between the people that you see on the outside and what's going on inside their head. And if you pretend to be something for a very, very, very long period of time, you may well actually become that thing. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.